Hello, welcome back to Papa-Norr Storytime. My name is Papa-Norr. I would like to say a very big thank you to all those who have subscribed to the channel, liked it, and clicked on its notification button. If you're new to this channel, I would like to encourage you and plead with you. Please watch the video, like it, subscribe to it, and share with your friends and families. So currently we are reading a book in a series. The series is called The Adventures of Naughty Kofi, and the book is written by Nana Ama Buckman. We have read 4 books so far, and today we'll be doing the 5th book in the series, which is the last one in the series. And as you can see, Kofi has been naughty all along because he has so much time on his hands. But let's see whether in this book Kofi will be good or Kofi will continue to be naughty. Ladies and gentlemen, the title of the book today is Kofi and the Poisoned River. Alright, so let's get into the book and find out what happens this time. Kofi and his father pay a visit to the Upper East region. It's Kofi's first time in the northern part of Ghana, and he will never forget meeting a crocodile and encountering an angry guinea fowl. Back in Boutique Room, something strange is going on. There are dead fish floating in the river, and unusual sounds can be heard in the forest. Will Kofi and his father solve the mystery? Let's find out. We are in Bolgatanga, Kofi Opoku told his father. Mr. Opoku excitedly, as the bus they were on entered the station and parked. They quickly got off with their bags and hired a taxi to a small hotel. After Mr. Opoku had paid for their room, they went in, unpacked, and went for dinner. After dinner, Mr. Opoku made arrangements for a car to take them to Paga the next day. They were very tired from the long journey and went to bed early. The loud sound of Mr. Opoku's alarm woke them up the next morning. They showered, dressed, and ate breakfast. The car taking them to Paga arrived and the journey began. The driver, whose name was Suleiman, told them that Paga was close to the border between Ghana and Burkina Faso and was quite far from Bolgatanga. On the way there, Mr. Opoku told Kofi a little about the crocodile pond they were going to visit. As Kofi listened, he boasted that he wouldn't be scared of the crocodiles. He would even hold one's legs. He went on to say, and he would bring a crocodile back with him to Boutique Room. We will see about that, his father said, and shook his head. A signboard welcoming them to Paka Zenga Crocodile Pond told Kofi they had arrived. There were a few other people there as well. His father paid the entry fee and also paid for 2 chickens. Kofi didn't understand why his father had paid for chickens and asked him about it. He didn't answer, but just smiled. They waited for about 5 minutes and their guide, Abu, arrived. Welcome to the Paga Crocodile Pond, Abu said brightly. Before we see the crocodiles, I must let you know a few things. The crocodiles are West African crocodiles. There are different stories of how we came to live with them so peacefully here in Paga. Some people say that a man escaping from a war ended up living in Paga when a crocodile helped him cross a river. He was so grateful that he vowed that he and his descendants would live peaceably with the crocodiles. Other people say, as Abu continued, Kofi stopped listening and began to look around. His father, realizing that Kofi wasn't paying attention, tapped him lightly and told him to pay attention. Kofi heard Abu say, "Do not stand in front of the crocodiles or near its eyes, mouth, or head. That would be dangerous. Please do not try to put your hand in the crocodile's mouth. We have lived at peace with the crocodiles for years. They don't harm us, and we don't harm them. Let's go and see the crocodiles now." The small group made their way to the pond, which looked very small. Abu began to whistle. And Kofi could see something moving in the water, heading towards them. Suddenly, a huge crocodile appeared. Kofi jumped in shock. He had never seen a crocodile this big before. One woman in the group screamed, "Ah!" Abu told them to calm down as he threw a chicken at the crocodile. The crocodile quickly caught it with its mouth, and Kofi saw its teeth. They looked so sharp. Abu instructed them to give the crocodile space and to get themselves ready to take pictures with it. The woman who had screamed was calmer now and volunteered to take her first picture with the crocodile. Other people in the group took their pictures with the crocodiles after her. Finally, it was Kofi and his father's turn. They were the last people in the group to take a picture with the crocodile. Led by Abu, they walked slowly to the huge reptile. The crocodile looked even bigger up close, and Kofi felt his legs shake just at looking at it. Mr. Opoku decided to go first. The guide directed him on what to do, and he took a picture holding the crocodile's tail and even took another sitting on the crocodile's back. Kofi's legs were still shaking, but he tried to be brave. His turn came, and his father encouraged him to come over so they could take the picture together. Kofi walked slowly, and when he was close to the crocodile, Abu told him to lay his hands on the crocodile's back. Kofi didn't want to, but his father gently asked him to try. As his hand got closer, Kofi thought he saw the crocodile's head turn, and it was too much for him. He fainted. He woke up in the car with water on his face, and his father fanning him with a newspaper. "You are awake! Thank God," his father said, relieved. "What happened?" Kofi asked, rubbing his eyes. "You fainted. 1 second you were about to touch the crocodile, the next second you were lying in my arms," his father told him. "I fainted?" Kofi asked, confused. "Yes. Let me show you a picture," his father replied, taking out his phone. Abu took the picture at the exact moment he fainted. Kofi looked at the picture in horror. He was so embarrassed. His father tried to lighten things up. "It's all right, Kofi. These things happen sometimes. I am just glad you are fine. I was worried. We are going to the closest health center. I want a doctor to make sure you are okay." They found a health center, and the doctor did a checkup. Kofi was fine. His father thanked the doctor, and they headed back to Bolgatanga. At the hotel, they ate, and Mr. Opoku instructed Kofi to lie down and rest. Morning came, and they headed to the Bulga market. The only market Kofi had been to was the market in Boutique Room, which was quite small and sold mostly food. The Boutique Room market was open almost every day, but the Bulga market was open every third day. The smells and sounds of the Bulga market were not very different from the boutique market smells. but there was lots of different things being sold. Kofi saw straw hats, baskets, fans, and bags. There were also leather goods displayed. Some men from Mali and Burkina Faso were selling metallic jewelry and bronze sculptures. Kofi could see women selling tomatoes and onions and people selling guinea fowls as well. Kofi and his father walked around the market, looking at all the different things, and Kofi tried on a straw hat. They moved to another stall that sold baskets. Mr. Opoku wanted to buy one for Mrs. Opoku. Good gentleman. As he bargained with the basket seller, Kofi wandered off to some guinea fowls in cages. As he looked at them, he could hear bits of a conversation between the woman selling the guinea fowls and another woman. They were talking about how something called galamsey was destroying some of the rivers in Ghana. Kofi moved closer. It's a very sad situation. The river close to my husband's village is in a bad state. The people have started calling it the poisoned river. Kofi heard the guinea fowl seller say, I heard in some places the fish are dying and the water can't be drank. The woman with her replied, It's true. That's what's happening, the guinea fowl seller said. Kofi, interested in their conversation, had leaned a little too close to the cage, which held a big guinea fowl. Suddenly, as he leaned even closer, he felt a sharp pain and shouted, Ah! The guinea fowl had grabbed his ear. The guinea fowl seller rushed to Kofi, and the guinea fowl let his ear go. His father, who had heard the shout, rushed over, grabbed Kofi, and apologized to the two women. Kofi, I always tell you to stay close by. I saw you wandering by the guinea fowls. If you had been paying attention and not listening to the conversation of the women, the guinea fowl would not have grabbed your ear, Mr. Opoku told him. I'm sorry, Daddy, Kofi said, ashamed. It's okay. Let's go to the hotel, his father replied. Kofi was embarrassed, and his ear still hurt. He should not have been listening to the conversation. They ended up going back to the hotel. Mr. Opoku took Kofi to a chop bar, and Kofi ate tuwo zafi for the first time. He loved it so much that he finished his and ate half of his father's. They left the chop bar full and happy. The trip to Bolgatanga came to an end, and the Opokus made their way back to boutique room. They arrived to an empty house. Mrs. Opoku and Foriwa, Kofi's little sister, were in Akosombo and will be returning in 2 days. Mr. Opoku and his son cleaned the house a bit and went to bed tired from the bus ride. The next morning, Mr. Opoku suggested that they go for a walk along one of the rivers close to boutique room. They did a few chores, and an hour later, they were on their way. They took a taxi halfway, and Mr. Opoku insisted that they walk the rest of the way to the river. The walk was long and tiring, and Kofi's feet hurt. His father was also tired, but he sang songs to keep them entertained. As they walked and got closer to the river, Kofi noticed something odd about the water. It was strange brown color, and there were some dead fish floating on the water. He pointed out the dead fish and the color of the water to his father, and Mr. Opoku's eyes became wide. What's this? What's going on? He asked under his breath, walking slowly ahead. The further they walked, the more dead fish they saw, and the browner the water looked. The distant sound of a machine caused them to stop. Daddy, what's that sound? Kofi asked, scared. I'm not sure, but I think I might know what it is, his father replied. They walked for a few minutes and stopped again. The sound was closer, and if they listened carefully, they could hear voices. There was a large bush close to where they stood. Mr. Opoku whispered to Kofi that he should hide behind the bush and see what was going on. They saw some men operating a really big machine and others were digging. The men were covered in mud. There was something wrong about what they were doing. Why were they digging? What were they looking for? Kofi guessed that these men were doing what was connected to the dead fish in the river. He suddenly remembered the conversation between the sellers at the bulker market. One had told the other about the fish from the river close to her husband's village dying. Could the same thing be happening here? What was the name the woman used? Kofi struggled to remember. Galame? Galme? Galase? Galse? No, it's none of those, he thought. Kofi was so lost in his thoughts that when his father gently tapped him, he gave a small scream. One of the men, who wasn't too far from the bush, heard the scream and started walking slowly towards the bush. His father, realizing they had to do something quickly, started to bleat like a goat, and Kofi copied him. The man stopped, listened for a while, and turned around. Mr. Opoku and Kofi sighed in relief. About 5 minutes later, it looked safe to leave. They bleated like goats. Meh, 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 meh. Let's get out of here, Mr. Opoku whispered to his son. They bent and walked slowly away from the muddy men. When they were safely away, Mr. Opoku told Kofi to run. Daddy, what's going on? Kofi asked, panting. Galamsey, his father said. Aha, that's what it's called. I couldn't remember, Kofi said excitedly. But what is that, he asked. Hurry up, Kofi, I will tell you later. We have to get back to Botikroom. I have to report this to the police, his father said. They made it back to the road. A car was approaching, and to their delight, they realized it was one of their neighbors, Mrs. Boama, who was on her way back to Botikroom. They stopped her and got into her car. Kofi didn't wait for the car to set off and started to tell her what he and his father had just seen. We have to get to Botikroom as fast as possible. It sounds like you saw illegal miners, she said. And when Kofi had finished her story, I knew it was Galamsey, Kofi's father said. What is Galamsey? Kofi asked his father again. Galamsey comes from the phrase gather and sell. It is where people mine for gold without permission from the government. It is not just destroying a lot of our rivers, it is destroying the forest as well. The fish and other creatures can't live in the water. They die because of the chemicals that the miners use. The miners usually have to clear the land by cutting the trees. They don't plant new ones to replace the ones they have cut, his father told him. The chemicals that find their way into the water are very dangerous. They make it unsafe to drink the water, Ms. Boama added. They arrived at the police station, and Mr. Opoku quickly told the policeman what he had seen. The policeman listened carefully and made a few calls. Soon, the police station was full of activity. Though they had a fair idea where the illegal miners were, they asked Mr. Opoku to come with them and show them exactly where he and Kofi had seen the men. Kofi and Ms. Boama wanted to go with the policemen, but they insisted that they would only take Mr. Opoku. Kofi and Ms. Boama would have to wait. They sat down, and Kofi asked Ms. Boama to tell them a little bit more about Galamsey. Your father and I forgot to add that the people you saw working at the mines are not only the ones involved. Foreigners are involved in Galamsey as well, she told him. They talked a little bit more about that. Kofi ended up dozing off during the conversation and was woken up by the sound of the police cars returning. He rushed to the window so that he could see what was going on. Kofi watched excitedly as they rounded up the illegal miners and led them into the police station. As one of the miners approached, Kofi recognized him It was the man who almost caught him, and he and his father hiding behind the bush. When the man came close, Kofi couldn't help himself. He started bleating like a goat. Meh, 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 sounding exactly like he did earlier on. The man jumped in shock and looked at Kofi, who laughed even more. The arrest of the illegal miners was the hottest news all over boutique room. Kofi had been telling everyone how he had been the one to catch the illegal miners, though that was not true. Mrs. Somoa, the headmistress of the school, overheard Kofi telling one of his friends that he jumped onto one of the illegal miners and caught him. She knew Kofi was lying, so she decided to do something about it. The next morning, a special assembly was called. 3 of the policemen who had caught the illegal miners had come to give a talk at the school about galamsey to educate the children. They repeated some of the things that Mr. Opoku and Ms. Boma had told Kofi and added that rivers that had been affected by galamsey were not always hopeless. Sometimes they could be reclaimed, though the process was very expensive and took a lot of hard work. It was possible. The policeman gave the children the chance to ask questions. One of Kofi's classmates asked the policeman to tell them about the recent arrest of the illegal miners. One of the policemen spoke. Sweat began to pour down Kofi's face. He had not told his classmates about bleating like a goat. He told them he had roared like a lion, and some of the illegal miners had fallen down in fear when they heard him. The policeman had told the whole school Kofi had bleated like a goat. Oh no. To make matters worse, it was clear as the policeman spoke that Kofi was not there when the miners had been caught. Everyone now knew Kofi had been telling lies. He tried to run out of the assembly hall after the talk, but his classmates cornered him and shouted, "Meh, meh, 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 meh." For a long while after that, Kofi was so amused of his father's for a long time after that, Kofi, to the amusement of his mother, refused to eat anything that had goat in it, especially goat light soup, though it was one of his favorites. The end. So, ladies and gentlemen, dear viewers, there we have it. This brings us to the end of the adventures of naughty Kofi. I'm sure you've all learned many, many lessons, especially from this final book, Book 5. We learned about the adventures of Kofi in the northern region, the Paga Pond where there are crocodiles, the guinea fowls pecking the ear of Kofi, Kofi coming back to Botikrum and together with his father, discovering about galamsey operators. So, just like the book says, galamsey operators are not only Ghanaians. There are foreigners also engaged in galamsey. Foreigners from West Africa and from Asia, far away China. There are a lot of Chinese engaged in galamsey. But the odd thing is that no Ghanaian would dare go to China to go and do any form of galamsey or pollute their rivers or any such thing. We need to value what is ours. We need to protect our lands, our rivers, our resources, and to be one another's keeper. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being patient to listen to this story reading, this book reading as well. And the title of the book was Kofi and the Poisoned River. Until we meet again in the next book, it is adios. My name is Papa-Norr.